Welcome to the Royal University of Phnom Penh, Cambodia. This presentation is about reporting of data for documentations, which will be focused on what you will be able to do at the end of this presentations, the introduction to report of data, prompts on report writings, report layouts, a brief sample of data reportings, and the last part of this presentation, you are asked to do the assignment task to check your progress of understanding. After you have gone through this presentation, you should be able to identify key components of a report, organize report in an appropriate layout, analyze data gathered from questionnaires, interviews, observation studies, interpret and analyze data in informative approaches, and the last. After you have gone through this presentation, you should be able to identify key components of a report, organize report in an appropriate layout, analyze data gathered from questionnaires, interviews, observation studies, interpret and analyze data in informative approaches, and you should be able to write a simple report of findings. To understand these lessons, after collecting and analyzing the data, the researcher have to accomplish the task of drawing inferences followed by a report writings. This have to be done very carefully, otherwise the conclusion is may be drawn and the whole purpose of doing research may be to report data collection. After collecting and analyzing data, the researcher have to accomplish the task of drawing inferences followed by report writings. This have to be done very carefully, otherwise the conclusion is may be drawn and the whole purpose of doing research may get validated. This have to be done very carefully, otherwise this have to be done very carefully, otherwise the conclusions it may be drawn. This have to be done very carefully, otherwise the conclusions it may be drawn and the whole purpose of doing research may get vitiated. It is only through interpretation that the researcher can expose relations and processes that underlie his findings. In case of hypothesis testing studies, if hypotheses are tested and upheld several times, the researchers may arrive at generalizations. How would define interpretation? Interpretations refer to the task of drawing inferences from the collected facts after an analytical and or exposed experiments. How would we define interpretation? Interpretation refers to the task of drawing inferences from the collected facts after an analytical and or experimental studies. In one sense, interpretation is concerned with the relationship with the collected data, partially overlapping analysis. In fact, it is a research for broader meaning of research findings. Thus, interpretations is the device through which the factors that seem to explain what has been observed by the researcher in the course of the study can be better understood, and it also provides a theoretical conceptions which can serve as a guide for further researches. How can we get some prompts on report writings? Avoid long, involved sentences and verses. How can we get prompts on report writings? Avoid long, involved sentences and overuse of polysyllabic words. Use the active voice instead of the passive voice. Avoid excessive use of nouns as adjectives. Don't hide your finding in non-committal. Don't hide your findings in non-committal. Don't hide your findings in non-committal statements. You have to be positive. Keep specialized jargon on minimums. Keep technical abbreviations and acronyms to minimums. Avoid repeating facts and shorts. Be concise and succinct. Avoid repeating facts and shorts. Be concise and succinct. You can use this video to find out how to write a survey report.
You're going to learn more about how to write a survey report. But before we start writing one, we need to understand what a survey is. So, what is a survey? Basically, by asking people questions, you will understand what people think or why they do certain actions. So that is a survey. You design questionnaires and you ask people questions and you learn more about them. So this is a survey. For example, PBL. In your PBL projects, you will design questionnaires and you have a bunch of questions to ask people, your interviewee. And then you collect the data, the information. You can answer. You will use these information, data, and statistic to answer the questions set in your PBL project. So this is a survey. Then, what is a survey report? Of course, you conduct a survey, you have data, you have information, you have statistics. Then you need to summarize these information and present your findings to people. Okay, if not, then it will be meaningless to do a survey, right? So you will need a survey report to summarize the findings. A survey report is a summary of your survey. And when you write a survey report, there is a particular structure that you can follow, but it's actually pretty simple. Basically, you will have the introduction, the main body, and the conclusion. And in the introduction, you will ask yourself why, what, and how to give the background information of a survey. And then, in the main body paragraphs, you present your findings and analysis. And at the end, you summarize all your points, and if you want to, or if needed, you can give recommendations in the conclusion. Let's take a deeper look in each part. Let's first start with the introduction. As I said, the introduction is for you to give background information of your survey. So there are actually a few questions you can answer to write your introduction, such as these, okay? You can ask yourself what the purpose, aim of this survey is. Okay, and other questions. When did you do the survey? How was the information gathered? What kind of questions did you ask in the survey? And how many people answered your survey, and who were they? If you answer these questions, basically you write your introduction. Let's take a look at this sample by answering the questions I've just asked. What is the purpose and aim of this survey? Then you answer, the survey is about, the aim of this survey is to understand, to find out, blah, blah, blah. And when do you do the survey? Then you will answer, this survey was conducted on the day, the time. How was the information gathered? Oh, the information was collected through the internet using blah, blah, blah. What kind of questions did you ask in the survey? The survey has several parts, and the first part, the second part, the third part, etc., etc. So you explain the design of the survey. You can also answer, how many people answered and who were they. So you answer there were how many respondents, and they were students, teacher, elderly, teenagers, etc. And at the end, you conclude your introduction with a thesis statement. So basically, a thesis statement is a sentence to summarize the whole survey report, the main idea. You can write like this. In the following parts, findings from this survey will be presented and analyzed. So you conclude your introduction with a very clear sentence. And for the introduction, you don't really need to write a lot of words. Around 50 to 60 words will do. Make sure it's short, clear, precise, and explain the purpose of your survey. Okay. Now we move to the main body. Okay, we'll take a look at one paragraph as an example. In the main body, you need to present your findings. Okay, but before writing a paragraph, always remember to add a subheading. Subheading is a subtitle, so that when readers read that paragraph, before reading your paragraph, seeing this subtitle, he or she immediately will know what you're going to talk about in that paragraph. So a subtitle, subheading is very important. And then you start with a topic sentence. A topic sentence is one sentence that can summarize the whole paragraph. And then after the topic sentence, you have your finding. You elaborate your findings, you talk about the data and statistics, you summarize the information. After you talk about the findings, you have the concluding sentence to conclude this paragraph, to end this paragraph. Basically, you just need to repeat your topic sentence again, but in other wordings. You paraphrase it. Okay? This is the structure of one main body paragraph. Let's take a look at this sample. For example, the topic sentence, from the first part of the survey, we learn more about the most popular celebrity in the music industry. So just one sentence, one main idea. And then you talk about the findings. You can use percentage, you can use fractions, okay? You can use, these to analyze your statistic, the data. You can say how many percentage of the students picked who as their favorite celebrity in the music industry, blah, 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 and continue and write your findings, okay? After you finish presenting your findings, you will have one sentence to conclude the paragraph. As I said, rephrase the topic sentence to make it your concluding sentence. You can write like, therefore, a group thought that blah, blah, blah is the most popular celebrity in the music industry. Just one sentence and the paragraph. All right? And you don't need to write a lot as well. Around 60 to 80 words will do. I'm sure if you try to explain all the findings in detail, you'll write more than 60 to 80 words. So this is the structure of one paragraph, and of course you can repeat this structure and write the second paragraph, the third paragraph in the main body. So one paragraph, one finding, one paragraph, one main idea. Then it will be very clear, it will be well structured, and everything, the ideas will be very coherent in one paragraph, okay? So you can write 2 to 3 paragraphs in your main body. And then after you finish presenting all your findings, then you have to write your conclusion. Remember, never add any new idea in the conclusion. Do not add any new idea in the conclusion. The conclusion is for you to summarize all the points that you have mentioned in the main paragraphs, okay? So don't add anything new. And also, it doesn't need to be long. Around 50 to 60 words will do. And you can always start your conclusion with these words like to conclude, in conclusion, to summarize, in short, all in all, etc. And then you summarize the points, okay? First point, second point, third point, the reasons. And then always end your conclusion with one concluding sentence as well. Therefore, blah, 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 blah. All right? So this is how you write a conclusion. And of course, if you like, you can add some recommendations as well. But if you don't add that, it's fine too. So that's your conclusion. Okay, so that's it for the structure of a survey report. Now we'll quickly take a look at the language that should be used in a survey report. Remember, when you write a survey report, always use formal language. Don't use spoken language, okay? Formal written language. Therefore, we don't use contraction. We don't say, oh, I don't like it, it isn't right, okay? Do not use contraction. And then, you can also use passive voice so that it would be more formal, okay, less personal. For example, instead of saying, I conduct the survey, you can say, the survey was conducted, blah, blah, blah. And also, because you need to explain the data collected in your questionnaire. You can always use reported speech to report what the interviewee say, okay? For example, you can say the interviewee said that blah 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 blah. So this is reported speech. All right. So basically that's it. You learn about the structure, the language of a survey report. You should be able to start planning your.
Yes. So you just see the sample of report writing layouts. We include those kind of introduction, body, and conclusion.
You're going to learn.
So commonly in the report layouts, you have to focus on the title, the name of the project, the researcher name, and supervisor who supervise your work, and the institution where you are studying, and then the date of this kind of reports. So layouts could be very important to draw your reader attention and to give them some clues on what you're going to discuss in your writing report. For example, is they may go through the content of your report writings. Normally it would start from the abstracts, acknowledgement, introduction, and the body of this kind of report, including material, method you are using to collect data, the result you find from your studies, and you discuss about what you found, and the last part is a conclusion. So you can follow up with this kind of very simple report layouts. In an abstract, normally it's very brief, it minimum 1 page, and you have to write a very clear, concise abstract is an art to draw your reader attentions. And summary, including the nutshell of your result and conclusion, include the date and the location where the data collected. Write an abstract last, just no write the abstract last with the number of pages. Must match the rest of your findings. Then you should write acknowledgement where you get information from and the people involved in your studies. This you need to identify the major people who give you the assistance and give them the thanks they deserve. In part of your writings report, in part of your writing report, the first one you focus on the introduction, and this part of the paper present the background, justification, and relevance of your study or surveys. State the problems and objectives, hypothesis is applicable to be tested, brief background with cited overview of literatures, relate the problems and significant to the discipline, paraphrase, not plagiarize, use a wide variety of sources from research journals to books or the internet, include at least one print source. In citation, you should be familiar with the rule which your institution suggests. In citation sections, you have to understand what. In citations, you need to know what rules your institution requires. In citations, you should understand the rules of citation proposed by your institutions. So the information learned from outside sources need to be cited in the introduction, like writing footnotes, not easier. So the rule can be cite all sources that refer to information on your species, experiment, or study size. And the next rule, you have size. Regarding citation, you have to understand the rule or the principle your institution requires you to comply with. The information learned from outside sources need to be cited in the introduction, like writing footnotes, only easier. The first rule, you have to cite all sources that refer to information on your species, experiment, or study size. The second rule, you have to cite all sources that back up your conclusion. The third rule, you have to cite anything that brings in effect not directly taken from your own observations. The last rule, when in doubt, cite. This means that when you are not clear whether your information is valid, whether information is reliable, you have to cite this one. Here are some direction or guidelines help you to choose appropriate citation. In the APA text, in citation style, use the author name and the year of publication, examples, when this one is produced. Here are some examples of proper citation. APA in-text citation styles use the author last name and the year of publication, for example, Phil 2005. For direct quotation, include the page number as well. For example, Phil 2005, page 14. For sources such as websites and ebooks that have no page numbers, use a paragraph numbers, for example, Phil's 2005 paragraph 1. And this picture can help you to see. This picture helps you how to write appropriate citation. This picture helps you to write the reference for your citation at the end of your works. In citation, we have a variations. Like one author, you start with the last name first and the year of publication. Two authors, you start with the last name and the last name of another author and year of publication. Three or more authors, you start with last name, commas, and another last name of the author, and at the last one, and you can use and the year of publication. So this example can show you, or some source might have no author, so you can use this phrase like insects of worm, something like that one. Another citation is only one editors. You also use like a list, commas, and ed, then the year of publication. Citing expert you have spoken to, so you can use their name and the person, the column you mentioned. You have to remember that the name you written in your citation is the last name of the authors. So this part we describe the material and the method you use for writing this report. So you have to describe exactly what you use to do your research. In this part, we discussed about the materials and the methods. Describe exactly what you use to do your research, what method you use or procedure you use, how you decide the sampling date and the location where the research is conducted, and the method you apply for collecting these data. Concise but detailed enough what a reader could duplicate your investigation. Standard procedures description should be kept extremely concise, including properly labeled diagrams or photograph of any setup. In a field study, a site description is required, complete with site visits. Computer software should be fully cited, including the version used. Statistics used to analyze your data should be included and cited. In the section of results, it contained a description and the interpretation of data include qualitative observation you made during the study, not just a data summarization, not just page of tables and figures. Tell the reader exactly what you found, what patterns, the trend of your findings, the relationship observed, or it could be photograph or diagram that visually describe your results. To do so, the reader can grab the key information of your results. Here are some examples to show how they can pick up the information from the result quickly. For example, labor. Here are some examples of finding presented on the table. Label graph and table correctly. And if you have more than one table, you have to number your table accordingly. A statistic below indicate how people use transportation to school. So you can see the variables, male student, female student, children or parent who use who use transportation or how do they go to school. And you can see the number of people who walk to school, someone who use bicycle, the bus, or the car. So present this kind of statistics information. The readers can catch up the information they have found. To present this statistic to the readers on the table, they will be able to catch up this information immediately. What they want to find out, whether how many male go to school by bus or how many of them go to school on foot. How can we analyze results? Do not make generalization statements that are not based on your data, what you know as a facts, or just the reasons. Relate your finding to other studies, cite those studies, drawn positive conclusion from your study whenever possible. You can check the validities to perform comparative tests. Use computer softwares or calculator program to look for statistically You can check your validity by performing comparative tests. Use computer softwares or calculator program to look for statistically significant differences between data from experimental and control groups. Standard deviation would be used to deviation of data from their means, interpret the information after calculation. Deviation of data from their means, interpret the information after calculation. Use t-tests for data sets that follow normal distributions. Use chi-squares comparing data in percentage forms in 2+ categories. Use diversity devices. Compare species diversities and dominant between different groups. Differences in two sets of data by find the differences in two sets of data by examining a sample of data from each public. Find differences in two sets of data by examining a sample of data from each population. How can we analyze and discuss your results? So results should be interpreted and explained, critically evaluated, and compared to the other reports. The result sections present the news. The discussion section contains the editorial. The discuss sessions contains the editorial. The results section presents the news, and the discussion section contains the editorial. So when you interpret the result, interpret statistics properly. Don't make broad statements from small samples. Use p-values 0.05 is a margin line of errors that differences have occurred from chance alone. Examine the amount and possible sources of variabilities in your data, including experimental errors. Examine your results for bias and evaluate its effect. Examine your result of bias and evaluate its effects. Develop arguments for and against your hypothesis and interpretation. Look at your data from as many points of view as possible. In the conclusion section, you need to write a brief summary of your findings, follow with a set of clear statements you believe explain your results. You have to ask a question if your hypothesis was valid or invalid. Don't forget to include your literature cited. You need to write your references you use and refer to your papers. You have to write them in alphabetical orders by authors. And several papers by the same authors. List more recently first, indent seconds, and succeeding lines. This just show you this example of how you would write the reference by using either APA or MLA. You have to discuss this kind of reference with your institutions. In appendixes, additional picture and or material you wish to include have to be placed in appendixes. Make sure any appendixes are listed in the table of contents. Don't stuff this section unnecessarily. It will not win your points. The common problem in writing your report is the failure to use, evaluate, and interpret your data is the most common problem students have in interpreting. The common problem in your report writing is the failures to use, evaluate, and interpret your data is the most common problems students have in report writings. The ignoring result because they differ from textbook generalizations, bringing too much irrelevant information into reports, making small differences seem important, discarding data because of variabilities and biases, improperly labels and cited figures and tables. Here is a brief sample of data. In order to understand, here is a brief example of data interpretation. It is important to discuss. Here is a brief example of data interpretation. It is important to understand the p-value. So the p-value can be arbitrarily divided with those expressed as proportion ranging from 0.00 to 1.00 and those expressed as percentages ranging from 0 to 100 as follows. So this kind of table is to show how the proportion and percentage are organized. As you can see, the higher p-value, the easier the tasks are for the groups. So these two tables show you the result of a student who performed in their progress tests. So to underline these kind of things, you have to calculate the mean, the median, the mode, and the range, and the standard deviation before you going to discuss on the p-values. So after you have gone through the calculation process, you need to do a writing of report. After you done calculation, you need to write a data report. Here is a sample of report which describe the table in the previous slide which you just gone through. So you're going to discuss about the mean. What does the mean mean for this kind of task? And what the median, and how does the median tell you? And what is the standard deviation? And then you make a comparative between the two groups, and you would draw a conclusion from those kind of statistics. And to make sure that your instrument used is reliable, or to get reliable information, you need to experiment, or you have to examine the test item closely in order to find out whether it's well selected, designed. So those dimensions focus on the discrimination index. So you can read this kind of sample report of data and to see how the table on the previous slide have been used to describe the performance the two groups of students in their tests. So you can use these videos to see the descriptive report of. Here you can use the video to see how you report APA styles.
In this video, we are going to look into how to report descriptive and frequency analysis in APA style. Now I've created this template here to report categorical variable like gender, mean scores for age, report a construct CSR consisting of multiple items, and another construct if, for example, you have measured a variable across different categories and you want to report a particular construct in your study across different groups. In this case, the group is countries. Now here is this template and here is my data. I've used Blue Sky Statistics. It's a free to use software based on R. There are videos available on the YouTube channel on how to download, how to start using Blue Sky Statistics. Now here is my data and I'm interested in frequency analysis for gender. Now how to do this? Go to Analysis, Summary Analysis, Frequency Table. And I'm interested in the frequencies for gender, like how many male and how many female respondents were there in the study. So you select gender from here, the source variables, and put it in the selected variables. Press OK. And here are the results. Gender, male, represented by 1. The frequency is 414. Gender female, represented by 2. The frequency is 360. Here is the percentage, cumulative percentage, valid percentage, and valid cumulative percentage. Now in order to export this table into Microsoft Word or Excel, just right click on it and you can export it to Excel, Word, PDF, or copy it to clipboard. If you copy it to clipboard, it is copied in the form of text rather than a table. So it's always a good idea to do it in Excel or Word. In this case, let's use Word. It might take a few seconds. Here it is. It's done. What you need to do is you can simply copy it from here. Just click this. If you hover around the table, you'll get this mark here. Just select it. Right click, copy, and you can paste it here in your main document. Okay, this is an empty column. I don't need it. Just select it, press backspace, and it will be deleted. We do not normally report cumulative valid or valid cumulative percentage, so just select it, press backspace, and it will be deleted. We are not interested in not applicable as well, so just select them and press backspace, it will be removed. In APA style, we've got borders at the top, at the bottom, and on the top row, you've got a bottom border as well. So just select the whole table, and from borders here, select bottom border. So this is how you can format the table in APA style. Apart from this, what you will need is you will need to write in table, let's say number it 1, and frequency distribution for gender. And in APA style, this is in italics. So this is how you can report your table in APA style. Now you just need to add the text here. The sample of hotel customers. This was from where the data was collected. The respondents consisted of 53.49 male respondents. We can go up to 3 decimal points if more precision is required in APA style, but normally we do 2 decimal points. And 46.51 female respondents. And the total sample size is, just go back, and here is your total sample size, the number of observations, that is 774. You can obviously mention the number of male and female respondents. So this is how you can report your descriptive or frequency distribution for a categorical variable. You can right click on it, arrange the table, autofit to window. Now next is descriptive statistics for the variable gender. It's not a categorical variable in this study, so we will have to take the mean of this particular variable. Now how to do this? Go to again Blue Sky Statistics, Analysis, Summary Analysis, Numerical Statistical Analysis. I'm interested in age. So select it from source variable, add it into selected variables. I'm not interested in grouping the variable, so just put it back. I'm interested in mean and standard deviation. Press OK. So the mean is 29.45 if you round it off. 29.45. And the standard deviation is